was led this past week to start this message off with a quote by Henry David Thoreau, who lived from 1817 to 1862 and was part of what is known as the Transcendentalist movement, which really began a whole new wave of consciousness within North America. And starting the whole new wave of consciousness within New Thought, which is really ancient wisdom. But I wanted to quote him, and at first glance, the statement is so brief that it may feel like just, a passing word or two. But he said, "It's not what you look at that matters, it's what you see." It's not what you look at that matters, but it's what you see. And I was thinking that all of spiritual education really is about that process, because it has to do with perception. And the founders of the Unity movement, as well as so many others, talked about not only faith as a matter of trust or hope, but as a perceiving power. Charles Fillmore said that faith is a perceiving power linked to form substance. And it's really about what it is that is within our consciousness, the faculty within us. And the perceiving power of mind isn't just about trust or hope, but it's really about having a felt knowing that God is present versus God is absent. And that so much of culture these days is about the belief that God is not present. And that why we come together in this setting is to remind ourselves, to have that divine remembrance that God is present. And so it's about dealing with consciousness. In my life, personally, I'm a pretty feeling-based person, but I also have an investigative intention. Always about looking at what it is that we are seeing and seeing something behind that. And it feels like in my whole work of ministry over the last 15 years, it's really helping myself and other people see themselves as souls on an eternal path. And that you and I, when we are caught up in the world's appearances of just looking but not really seeing, that's when we have our struggles in this life. Years ago, before ministry, I was an investigator with Child Protective Services in Arizona, and I did that for 12 years, and most of my coworkers were on antidepressants. But I chose not to go that way. But I knew that those people that I was dealing with, and it was challenging work, but those people that I were dealing with, I felt on a deeper level they really wanted to be seen. To not just be looked at, but to be seen, and that the stresses that they were having were due to them not really seeing who they were as spiritual beings and on an eternal journey. And so what I want to share with you today has a lot to do with what Charles Fillmore advised having in each talk. In each talk on a Sunday is an element of psychology. And you may say, well, spirituality isn't about psychology. It's about the matters of the heart. But if you and I are to do our inner work, it really is about what we hold in mind and what we hold in consciousness so that that can be looked at and cleared. And that's really what I feel that Mr. Thoreau was talking about. It's not what you look at that matters, it's what you see. Back in the early 80s, in 1981, 1982, I was involved in a teaching called Actualism in Southern California. And that had to do with something called managing or taking a look at image government. And that has nothing to do with the government, outer government. It has to do with looking at what it is that we hold within consciousness in the images of the mind. And that behind the images of the mind is the truth of being. And to not be governed by those images. Because if we're governed by them, we're acting out of a dutiful place versus a place of beauty. So we have to get out of our minds. And if you have ever had anybody in your life that you have shared with on an intimate level about new thought, and they say, well, you must be out of your mind. I don't believe any of that. And you say, yes, it's true. Thank you. I am out of my mind. Because we really do have to get out of our mind and get into our heart. So I was really looking at, well, there is this course in love. That is like the next step of Course in Miracles. Have you ever heard of this, A Course in Love? I don't know how popular that is up in Canada. But it's very popular down in my neck of the woods. And in the Course in Love, it basically says, well, it's all been said. But has it all been said? And what is it that we are wanting to do to take it to the next level of ourselves? And I would say that we are in this process of looking at our own psychology so that we can go into a deeper place, which is really the holy grail of the self, the holy grail of the heart. Charles Fillmore said years ago that that we must be spiritual scientists about this process. And he wasn't the only one. Mary Baker Eddy said it. Ernest Holmes said it, that we must be scientists of consciousness. And why would we want to be scientists of consciousness? Is so that we can go and be in the heart. So, can I be in my heart with you all right now? Is that okay? And my wife has advised me on occasion. She's a good advisor. To not go there. But I want to share with you something. I want to share with you something that's really important to me. And, I feel kind of out on a limb, in a way. There are times in ministry when I have prepared 12 pages of notes. All of that. and I get up and I'm ready to give my talk, and none of it has life. What is real is for me to be real right now with you. To let go of the notes, because that doesn't feel a resonance with the room that's happening in this moment. Do you understand what I'm saying? And it feels out on a limb. Okay. Here's my truth. Here's my truth right now. And I don't know if the Board of Trustees is saying don't go there, but I feel this tremendous weight or responsibility on my shoulders to produce something here so that people keep coming back. And it is a sense of duty, which chimes into my talk. To be dutiful or to be beautiful. And how many times in our lives do we have this feeling of duty with it kind of on our shoulders? And we want to express the beauty of what it is that we are in our day-to-day, moment-to-moment life, and we go into a store, we go into anywhere in our lives, and we're feeling the burden of the duty of our responsibilities, and yet all we really want to do is to shine our beauty of who it is that we are. Can you relate to this? So this is what is kind of on my shoulders right now. I've been fighting off a cold all week. My wife isn't here today because she has a really bad one. And I've been like, no. I will not do that because of the responsibility that I have for showing up and doing what it is that I need to do in order to support this ministry. But if I'm to be authentic with my own being and to move forward within my own process, I have to be real with what's going on, because you can feel it if I'm not, right? And what good is that? It's like blah, blah, blah. So what? What I have a deep feeling and a calling to do, and that may sound like an old-fashioned word, but a calling to be about is to connect with you. And if I can't connect, I feel like a phony. And I don't want to be feeling like a phony in front of 200 people. That's not a good feeling, is it? So what it is that is required to take it to the next level is just to say, okay, well, this is what's going on. And it's really not about me, even though I'm making it about me. But what I'm saying is, I'm mirroring perhaps to you. I'm mirroring to you our process. That how often in this life experience do we go through the motions of being dutiful and sacrifice being beautiful? That's real to me. And when we can be real on that level and even say, yeah, I carry that too, then there's this connection. Then there is soul. Because what it is that I'm about is the soul, and what is standing in the way of soul is the persona that we think we have to show up and look good, but live lives of quiet desperation, as Thoreau would say. So when he's saying it's not so much important about looking, but what's really important is about seeing. And on a very deep level, right now, I'm inviting us to see each other. Because in the human life that we're living, there seems to be so much separation. But what is so is that if we see through the eyes of the soul, there is none. And that you and I can be in this moment and then also walk out into our lives and saying, wow, there was something that was said today that maybe had some value for your life. I remember one Sunday in Cottonwood, Arizona, where I had my last work. There was one of these kind of situations where I just had to say, well, let me share with you what's really happening right now. And it's not about entertainment. It is nice to have entertainment, but it's really about taking it to the next level. On this eternal path that you and I are on. What is that next level? Later this month, the board of trustees and I are getting together and really asking the question, who are we now? Where do we want to go now with this work called Unity of Vancouver? How can we serve the highest good for this congregation? How can we show up in a way that's authentic and genuine, even if it hurts? This is about the heart. This isn't about providing for you entertainment. So I just wanted to share that with you today. Because this kind of mild cold thing that I'm experiencing, I feel cut off from my feeling nature, but if I say it, then it goes away. And I can feel connected and one with you, because it's really important for that to happen in this life work. Because I don't know how long I'm going to be here on this planet. None of us do, right? So, I remember in Brother, Sun, Sister, Moon. Remember the movie? Brother, Sun, Sister, Moon, a recount of St. Francis of Assisi. And the actor, I don't remember his name. It just kind of flashed into my head right now to talk about. That this priest, Francis, was in such an enlightened state that he took all his clothes off and he didn't care. And I'm not going to do that, so don't worry. Don't worry about that. I wouldn't go there. But anyway, he disrobed completely because he was totally in a state of consciousness where it didn't matter. And there was a priest that took his heavy, bejeweled robe and, we can't have that, and put it around him. And he took it off, and it fell in the dirt. And there he was once again. And he walked out the gates of the city into the light of day. And he went to go and rebuild a church. And that was so powerful to me because we have to sometimes get really undressed or naked, metaphorically, to start our real work in this world, in this life. So maybe this is just part of the path. Maybe just getting naked in front of you, metaphorically, of saying what's so, is part of the path of what's happening right now. And that's okay. Sometimes it doesn't feel really okay. It feels very vulnerable. But it's okay. It's okay in my consciousness for you to see me in a way that is just kind of like out there. Because within the psychology of the personal self and the psychology within the culture that we live, I feel that it is true that we live lives of quiet desperation and we don't really see. We look, but we don't really see. And it's ours to allow this kind of taking off our persona, to allow ourselves to be formed by the Spirit, to rebuild the church, which is really, the church is you. You are the vessel. You are the chalice. You know, for thousands of years or hundreds of years, people have been looking for the Holy Grail. But what came to me when I was developing this message today is that you are the Holy Grail. You are what you've been looking for. And what's in the vessel, what's in the chalice, what's in that cup called you, and what needs to be released or poured out of that cup so that it can be filled with something beautiful. Not dutiful, but beautiful. Because in all of my experience, my whole career, both in social work and ministry, everybody is wanting to be their authentic self. And it's my function, my joy, to assist in any way possible for that to happen. And I want to tell you that I'm here for you in this process. Everybody has their own go-to people for support and everything, family or friends or therapists or healers or whatever like that. I'm also here for you because I know, because I've been through it and I'm still going through it every day of my life. But there's something beautiful on the other end of this process. It is the actual nature of what it is that we are. The soul, the spirit, the love that we are. So, in closing, I did want to say that this class that's coming up, Grounded in Eternity, is really going to be an in-depth dialogue about this whole process of us getting real with each other. And I don't know that there's going to be any handouts. Someone said to me, "You're not going to have any handouts?" And I said, "Well, maybe not." How often do those just get pitched? But this is going to be about a real dialogue around our path, our mutual path in God. Getting real and loving each other. And if there's any handouts, it's like one hand to another. Phew. Anyway, I don't know how much of a polished talk that was today. Let's just take a deep breath and say, Amen. Thank you.